there everyone, and welcome back to another Inspiration Friday with Joy and Fleur. This month we are being inspired by mixed media, and I'm heavily into mixed media right now, and I haven't created a layout in a while, so I decided to mix the two and create a mixed media layout this month. I'm working with a Carabelle stamp. The stamp is quite large. I'm going to ink it up with some archival black ink and leave the stamp on my desk and press the paper into it. This stamp is almost 11 inches tall and I think almost 6 inches wide. I'm going to stamp it twice onto the background, and I will let you know up front that I have two background pieces that I'm working on. Because I haven't made a layout in a while, I pre-stamped a different paper and showing you what I did to create the background of this layout in the video. So I'm going to be switching back and forth between my layout and the tester page that I have going on this time, just because. So this picture is a bit of a funny picture. I texted this to my husband while he was at work one day and said that I'm going to be eating the last cookie of these cookies that both of us like. Before I started the video, I stamped this out onto some watercolor paper and cut out some of the circles that I'm going to color with some distress crayons and then layer over top of the stamped images in the background. So I'm going to use my photo to cover up the seam area where I stamped and overlapped overlapped the two stamped impressions. These are the distress crayons, and I'm going to mostly stick with the brights, which is the package on the right, and color those in, and then, as I said, glue them onto the background layer. So one thing that I do like to do is, when you don't get a good impression of a stamp, and because it's so big and I am stamping on a textured background, I go back in with a black Sharpie marker or another fine tip pen, and I go over the lines. Now, because this is such a sketchy and kind of distressed stamp, it really just blends in with what I'm doing. So I did go over some of the circles that I wanted to emphasize that didn't get stamped as well. And I even went through and numbered the circles where I'm going to be placing the cut out watercolor paper once I get them colored, as you can see on the back there. So I'm just going to grab my nonstick craft sheet in order to do the watercoloring. And I thought to myself that maybe I should actually add some texture onto the background rather than just the stamped image. So I'm going to pull out some stencils. Two of these stencils, the smaller ones, I've cut on my silhouette and have used before. And the other one is from Crafter's Workshop. I'm going to be using some light molding paste in order to add some of the stencil to the background. This stencil can look like arrows, so what I'm going to do is position it so it's pointing towards the middle of the layout and towards my photo. And after I place some molding paste in with the stencil in 3 different areas on my layout, I'm going to dry it with my heat tool and then come back in with the distressed crayons and do the packaging technique, which I will show you, and apply some color to the background like a watercolor effect. Now that the background paper is dry, I'm going to do the packaging technique, and all I'm doing is coloring the distressed crayons directly onto the plastic. I'm going to add water, and then I'm going to fold the plastic onto itself and kind of smush the colors together, and then flip it over onto my layout, and lifting the plastic up and down, I'm going to move the color around the page. I did not come up with this technique. It's something that I learned here in the scrapbooking community on YouTube from several different people. I don't know who the first person was that did it, but it's a fabulous technique and a very easy one to do. I went in and added some more color with the distressed crayons and some water directly to the background. So I'm drying that up, seeing how it looks, and then I'm going to start coloring the watercolor paper circles that I cut out. And again, because I'm going to be using quite a lot of water in order to color these, I stamp them before the video onto watercolor paper, whereas the background I'm using is just normal white textured cardstock from American Crafts. So I'm going to color them all up. I'm not going to put every color you see on my desk on all of them. It's just a random kind of thing, and these distress crayons are very creamy and go on really nicely, and you can water them down or reapply them and not add water and then smudge them around with your finger, and it works very well. They are more vibrant when water is not added, but in order for me to get them to mix a little bit better, I wanted to use the water to do that. So I wanted to show you what they kind of look like. I'm not finished yet coloring them all, but I'm getting close, and so you can see how vibrant they can be. You can go back in and you can actually add white to this. I do have a white one on the side there just to give it some highlights if you want. I did do that on some of the areas where I added some gray, but otherwise I didn't use a lot of the white on the watercolor circles. So here we are, the circles are all finished being colored with those distressed crayons. I really like the way that those work. I'm going to dry them up, and I'm actually going to have to use the stylus to hold them down onto the craft mat while I heat them up with my heating tool in order to dry them off. So here we are back at the layout, and I'm just placing them around where I had numbered them before. And you can see in the background that I've added some of the pink distressed crayon that ended up being on a lot of the circles that I colored. So I did the same packaging technique I did with the blue, I used a different color. So here I have some Studio Calico vellum hearts and my title. Again, keeping in mind that this layout is a very funny kind of light-hearted thing, because this silly photo is something that I texted to my husband, taunting him that I was at home and I was going to be eating the last cookie of some of the cookies that we both really enjoy. So I'm just trying to keep it fun with this layout. These vellum stars, like I said, are from Studio Calico, and I'm just going to stick them around the layout in different areas, overlapping them under and over top of some of the circles. Now I'm going to glue them down with some matte medium, and because it's not too fussy and it's matte and will dry clear, I'm not going to be overly particular with how I'm gluing them down. So I'm going to use the best tools ever, just my hands and my fingers, in order to apply some glue to the back of the circles and then adhere them to the layout. And I won't make you sit through me doing all of those, just a few of them here to see how the background is. So here comes a tough part for me, is choosing a paper to mount the layout to. I did cut off a half an inch off two sides of the layout in order to be able to stick it down to another 12 by 12 piece of pattern paper. Again, because of all the water that I've added to this, and it's warped the paper, and so by mounting it on something else and using double-sided sticky tape to do that, I'm going to be able to work out a lot of that warping and create a flatter layout. So I'm not really liking my choices here, so I'm gonna go with a good old standard and go and get a piece of plain black cardstock and try that at the back. And of course I really love that because it makes the colors on the layout pop. And I'm going to try a striped one as well, which is a little more on the gray side, but it just kind of dulled it down a little bit, so I'm going to stick with black. And I'm again going to mount that with some double-sided sticky tape in order to be able to smooth out some of the warping that was caused by the addition of the water and the molding paste. And I'm not going to make you sit through that. So here I have my containers of embellishments. I have divided them by color, and I'm going to sort through some of these bins and pull out things that I think I might want to use on this layout. There is some orange in the circles, so I was thinking I might pull out a lot of orange ones in order to add that, but I end up not using a lot of the orange ones, as you will be able to see on the final layout. Alright peeps, we're almost there. I went through my bins. There are a few things that I selected. I have my title and my bottle of quick dry glue and my fine tip applicator. I'm going to head off and embellish this layout and come back. I did fuss around with it quite a bit, so I'm not going to make you sit through that. The last thing I think this layout needs is some more gold on it to tie in with that gold title. So I'm going to shake up some Heidi Swapp Color Shine, and it's the gold lame color, and use the applicator to flick on some droplets of the color shine. I'm going to put a link in the description below for you to be able to click over and see how Fleur was inspired this month with the Mixed Media Inspiration Friday. In a few moments, I'm going to put up some of the detailed shots of the layout, and I encourage you, if you like this video, to hit the like button and also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for taking the time for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I'll see you next time.